and now we are right to the. Can I have a bottle of water, please? We have arrived to the Ark of the Covenant, part 4, and but before to continue, I would like to make a short summary of the previous part. So, in the first part of the Ark of the Covenant, part 1, we saw that Elohim commanded Moses to make the Ark of the Covenant, and that before all the others objects. Why? Because the Ark of the Covenant is the more important in the Tabernacle. Then we said that the presence of Elohim was on the Ark of the Covenant. And that was where? It was in the most holy place. So after that we said that the most holy place was a perfect cubic room. And what happened? When we unfold the cube, what we are going to obtain, we get a perfect cross. It reveals to us something. What is giving us a prophecy, and is that no one could come to the presence of Elohim without the Yeshua sacrifice on the cross. Like the high priest, he needs to come with the cross. So after, in the Ark of the Covenant, part 2, we mentioned that the Ark of the Covenant, we mentioned that the most holy place contained only one item. It's the Ark of the Covenant. Why? It's because right away, at once, Elohim is giving us a revelation. The revelation is that He is Ehad. He is one. There is not 2 Elohim gods or 3 Elohims. There is only one Spirit. And this, right away, put down the idea that there is 2, 3, 4 Elohim and or 3 distant persons. In the same way, we said after that the most holy place was a dark room. Why? Because there was no source light like the sun or another kind like the menorah. After that, we mentioned that in the most holy place, the access was forbidden. Only the high priest could enter when in Yom Kippur. Once a year, he comes. Once a year, for him, he must bring blood, and he came for the forgiveness of his sin and also for the sin of the people. After that, in the Ark of the Covenant, part 3, we said that the Ark of the Covenant was made according to the pattern that Elohim showed Moses in the mountain. And this pattern, what we are studying, we are going to see the original. when in the time to come, in the New Jerusalem, as it is written in Revelation chapter 8, 19. Then we said that the Ark of the Covenant is a shadow about the things to come. We said that around the Ark of the Covenant was not a source light in the same way. In the time to come, in the New Jerusalem, when we are going to be with Yeshua, we are not going to have the sun or the moon or any other light. Okay? Because Yeshua, he is gonna be our light. He's gonna light us. And that's why the sun is gonna disappear. He's gonna disappear. Then after that, we saw there also, in addition, we saw that in the scriptures, the word ark is mentioned about 200 times. 30 times is mentioned about the ark of Noah, and 170 times the word ark is mentioned for the Ark of the Covenant. After that, it says that we learned that the Ark of the Covenant in the scriptures is known as well as the Ark of the Covenant is the more common and is known like the Ark of Testimony. It also is known like the Ark of Elohim. Is known as the Ark of the Sovereign Yahweh. Is known as the Ark of your strength. And finally, is known as the Ark of is known as the Holy Ark. Now, let's start with the Ark of the Covenant, part 4. In Exodus chapter 25, verse 10, we read, we are not going to read it all, but just one. Now they are to make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits in length, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. So it says, make an ark of the covenant. Make an ark. Let's go see the definition of what is an ark. What is an ark? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of ark is a boat or ship held to resemble that in which Noah and his family were preserved from the flood. Also, the second part of the definition is something that affords protection and safety. The second definition we have in this dictionary is the sacred chest representing to the Hebrew the presence of God among them. But now, what is ark in Hebrew? Because the scripture was written in Hebrew. According to the strong biblical dictionary, ark was translated from the Hebrew word Aaron. Aleph, Resh, Vav with the little point, and Nun final. Aaron. And Aaron is from the root Ara. And it means to gather. It means it's a box. And then it's also ark. And it is a coffin. I was wondering why coffin? It's not a good idea, coffin. But in the scriptures, there is no consequence. I didn't explain, but it's about Yeshua. He died when we put the seed on the ground and we need to, but it's everything has a meaning. So in the context here, the ark will be the container or gathering place for the work of Elohim to be eventually expressed into tablet stone. Take note something. We said ark is Aaron, but we must make the difference between Aaron is not the same like the Moses brother. Aaron, 2A. Why? Because in Hebrew, I mentioned the letters, Aleph, Resh, Vav, and Nun. In Hebrew, we add another A. That is the letter Hey that goes inside the middle for the Hey representing Elohim. So it's not the same, Aaron and Aaron. So let's study and see that the ark is like a chest. You see? Oh, there's a second. Okay. The ark is like a chest. By definition, the chest purpose is to gather, to keep, and it's also to offer protection to a treasure. A treasure on earth is silver, gold, stone, precious stone, diamonds, and pearls. Now, let's see the content of the Ark of the Covenant. What is the treasure in the Ark? We find the 2 tablets of stone with the 10 commandments, the 10 words. And the 2 tablets of stone is the covenant Elohim made with the children of Israel. We have this in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 5. Then I turned and came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark, and I had made. And there they are, just as Adonai commanded me. What else was in the Ark of the Covenant was a jar of manna. Exodus 16:32. It says, then Moses said, this is what Adonai has commanded. Let a full over of it be kept throughout your generation, so that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness, the manna, when I brought you out from the land of Egypt. Just as Adonai commanded Moses, Aaron stored it in front of the testimony to be preserved. What else we have? What is Aaron rod, Aaron staff? Number 17:10. It's Adonai said to Moses, put Aaron staff back in front of the testimony to keep as a sign to the son of rebellion, so that it may put an end to their grumbling against me, and so they will not die. We see that in the book of, in the epistle of Hebrews, we see that it's mentioned about the tabernacle. In the chapter 9, verse 4, we have Hebrew, it's held gold and altar of incense, and the Ark of the Covenant completely covered with gold. In the ark was golden the ark, Jah, holding the manna, Aaron rolled that bowed her, and the tablets of the covenant. So I introduce to you the three treasures that the ark gathered, protect, and keep. And these treasures, the scriptures speak frequently, many times. Take an example. In the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 72, we read, "The Torah from your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces." Why? Because Elohim compares what is treasure natural and what is spiritual. So after that we have Proverbs chapter 2, 4 and 5, 6. If you seek her a silver, because he starts in the verse 1 says, listen my commands, obey my commandments. Okay. So he says, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasure, the wisdom of the commandment, then you will know the fear of Adonai and discover the knowledge of God. For Adonai gives wisdom, out of his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And it says, if you search for her, the wisdom of the covenant, ask for hidden treasure, is what is hidden in the ark. Besides being a treasure chest, the Ark of the Covenant is a shadow, or we are a shadow of the Ark of the Covenant. You see the shadow? You see the Ark? So, as we know, the Ark is the most holy object on the earth. For Elohim's presence dwell on it. So the Ark speaks about who? About Elohim. The Ark is about Elohim. He represents the Ark. The Ark represents Elohim. So, but in the same way, the Ark speaks about us. How come the Ark is so holy, so pure, is only for Elohim? No, it's also about us. Why? Because we were created according to his own image and his likeness. Genesis chapter 1, 26 and 27. Then Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them rule over the fish, over the sea, over the flying creature in the sky, over the livestock, over the whole earth, and over climbing creature that crawls on the land. God created humankind in his image. In image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So, let's see what is his image in Hebrew. Image is Zelim. Age 67, 54 in the dictionary, Hebrew dictionary. And Zelim comes from the root meaning is to shade. And it is a representative figure. Zelem means also image. That is to say that we are to be the shadow of Elohim. Now, the shadow of a person does exactly what that person does. The shadow does the same thing in the same time. Look, my shadow, I don't know, but it's the same. I move, it moves. So if I move, the shadow moves too. Thus, we are created to do what Elohim does. When he works, we must do work as well. The scriptures teach us that Yeshua man, because we know that Yeshua was man 100% and he was Elohim 100%. So Yeshua man was shadow of Elohim. In the book of John, chapter 5:17, we read, but Yeshua said to them, my Father is still working, and I am working. Therefore, Yeshua is as well the visible image of Elohim. Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. Don't worry, we're going to have a message about that at the end, about the firstborn, and also about let us make the man to not be confused. So now, as the Hebrew word Zelem, a representative figure, that is what we are. For we represent Yeshua here on the earth. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, when it says, we are therefore ambassador for Messiah. Ambassador, we represent the Messiah, Yeshua. Just a second. No. So for Messiah, as to God were making his appeal through us, we beg you on behalf of Messiah, be reconciled to God. So, in other words, we are shadow, a copy of what is in the ark, on which Elohim dwelt. Moreover, if for this reason that Elohim says in Exodus 25:8, make a sanctuary for me, for I will dwell among them. So, what is among them? In Hebrew, it's Tawet, which means, of course, among, between, in, middle, midst, through, with, and within. So he was saying, I will be with you, I will be around you, but in the time to come, he is going to be inside us. And then in the New Jerusalem, he will be with us also, around us. So now Elohim was currently in us, exactly like it is written in Exodus 25:8. So for this reason, the most holy place of the tabernacle, we could compare it with the heart of the human being, which is the deep deepest part of our inner being. Where is that? Is in our mind. That's why when the Bible says in Jeremiah chapter 17, 9 to 10, blessed is the one who trusts in Adonai. Jeremiah, blessed is the one who Adonai. That's it. Whose confidence is in Adonai. Adonai search the heart and try the mind to give every man according to his deed. So when the scripture says that Adonai search the mind and the heart and try the mind, is not making reference to the heart, the motor, the heart we know usually inside our chest. But Elohim is not the physical heart, but to the heart of our mind. By the way, Paul said, Shaul, he says in the book of Romans, in the Epistle of Romans 12, 1 and 2, and he says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Why do I say that? Because if we are not renewed in our mind, what's going to happen? It's going to happen exactly what Yeshua said in Matthew 15, 19. He said, for out of the heart, evil thought, murders, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, and slanders. This is the most holy place, represented by the heart of the human being. Then, what represents the holy place? The holy place is the soul area, the soul room, place where are the emotion and the feelings. Now, the courtyard of the tabernacle is our body. So this is the reason why Elohim works with us in our lives with the same pattern of the tabernacle. He starts from inside toward outside. So when he comes and when he touches our heart, the heart of our mind, he comes and then after that he touches our soul, the area of our soul, our feeling, our emotion. And then he finish with our body. Then we start to speak differently. Before we said bad words, vulgar words. Now we speak different. Before we act, we had a wrong behavior. Now our behavior is different. And even the way we dress, it changed. And then people start to see that, oh, something is happening with that person. It's another person. It's a different. We change because Yeshua changed us. So, in fact, like the most holy place in our heart, there is room only for the presence of Elohim. And there, only one person could enter in. Who was that person? Was only the high priest. And who is the high priest? Is Yeshua. So, in the heart of our mind, the deepest place of our mind only is for the presence of Elohim and Yeshua seated in his throne there. Now, let's see as well that the Ark of the Covenant is like a human cranium. We have said that our body is made according to the tabernacle. So, the Ark is like the human cranium. Now, what is the human cranium? Definition is a skeletal framework. It's going to be like many words that I tried to reach, I tried to search, but I didn't know. And it's going to be maybe the same for you. But I mentioned because it's gonna help us to understand. It's interesting. So it's a skeletal framework of the head of vertebrates composed of bones or cartilages, which form a unit that what protect the brain and some sense organs. Why it does need to protect the brain, the cranium, is because the brain is an essential organ for the human existence. The brain is a complex organ that controls thought, memory, emotion, touch, motor skill, vision, breathing, and every process that regulates the body. The brain is divided into two symmetrical parts, the hemispheres, linked together by the corpus callosum. Each hemisphere deals with the opposite side of the body. The left hemisphere controls the right part of the body, while the right hemisphere controls the left part of the body. Now, the Ark of the Covenant gathers, protects, and keeps the two tablets of stone. And there we have the 10 words, commandment. And also gathers, protect the jar of manna and the Aaron staff. In the same way, the cranial box, the cranium, gathers the brain and other sense organs to afford protection and keep them safely. It's true. If we don't have the cranium, so the brain, when we see the brain, you have the picture here? When we see the brain from above, it looks like the two tablets stone. And it corresponds with the fact we said before that the heart in the scriptures is in the deepest part of our mind, in the brain. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 1 to 3. My son, keep my words and treasures my commandment, mitzvot, within you. Keep my mitzvot, commandment, and leave my teaching as the apple of your eyes. Bind them in your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Where are the tablets of our heart? You see, there is the tablet of our heart. The brain inside the more deepest. So, You could see the cranium, beautiful cranium here. Now, to be able to write what? The commandment, the 2 tablets stone, and the word of Elohim, and he says to write them ourselves. Here, we know that Elohim writes his Torah in our hearts with this Ruach HaKodesh, but in the same time, we need to write them ourselves. To provide that and to be able to write them ourselves in the tablet of our heart, in the mind, Elohim creates the human cranium with cavities, 2 cavities for the eyes, for us to read, for us to see and read his 10 words and all the words. He created 2 cavities for the ears, for we could hear and listen his words. He put 1 cavity for the nose, where is the bread of life. And this bread of life we receive in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. When Elohim said, breathe on the nostril of Adam. 1 cavity, and he put in the cranium 1 cavity for the mouth, with the purpose to speak, to talk, and repeat the 10 words in his Torah. Wait a minute. Elohim did that to write, to be able that we write. So that means that the eyes were not created to watch TV. The mouth was not created to eat hamburger. No, it was not the first purpose for what was created. In Elohim's side, everything is around his word. Why? It's so important to his word, because his word is life. And for us, we could think that the hair is the eyelid and the eyelashes is for decoration. Beautiful. Remove the hair, remove the eyelid and eyelashes. It's gonna be like weird. It's gonna be different. It's beautiful decoration. But in the eyes of Elohim, it's not that. Firstly, is protection. Protection. It's protect our eyes. It's protected from the heat, from the sun. Then after, it's gonna be secondary decoration. And so on with the other things. So his word is so important. That's why he said in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6 and 7, exactly what we had done in the beginning, that he commanded that we need to impress his word, his 10 commandments, and all his word in our hearts. Now, when we take the 2 tablet stone, is like the brain. And the brain has the left side and the right side. So exactly like the 2 tablet stone, where were engraved the 10 commandments. 1 tablet stone had for the commandment to how to love Elohim. And the other tablet stone had the commandment to how love the neighbor. To my belief, I speculate, because the 4 commandments are longer than the other ones, I speculate the first tablet was only 4 commandments. And it goes exactly, it's not written in the scripture that, oh, he put 5 in the first tablet and 5 in the second tablet. No. But for me, I think it's 4. And it goes with how to love Elohim. And the other one, how to love the neighbor. And what is the relationship? What I want to say is that it's exactly like the 2 hemispheres of the brain. We said that one hemisphere of the brain has an impact, effect with the opposite part of the body. The same with the tablet stone, where we have the 10 commandments. For example, to understand, when we read in the Epistle of John, chapter 4:20, it's written, whoever claims to love Elohim, and yet he hates his brother or sister, is a liar. Why? Because if I take the commandments of how to love Elohim, but I have a problem, and I claim that I love him, but I hate it's gonna have an effect with the other one. How is possible that I would say that love Elohim, and if I don't love my neighbor? I cannot love my neighbor if I don't love Elohim. I cannot love my neighbor and not love Elohim. It it's corresponding. It's have an effect. It's have an impact. If I love Elohim, it's gonna push me, and I'm gonna love my neighbor, because the spirit of Elohim is with me, and his commandment is gonna be easy to love my neighbor. If I hate my neighbor, how I'm gonna love Elohim? When the scripture says that I see my neighbor and I don't see Elohim. So it's like it's the same idea. Now, clinically, the brain is the last organ to die. How come? For our soul is there. Just something like that. In scholarly, I did first. It says that in the past, I don't know if in Israel, but in the past, in the other places, they don't have what we have now. When someone died, what people did, they hit the toe of the person who died to see if the brain reacts. If the brain didn't react, so it's dead. Why? Because there is the soul. So, yeah. Moreover, the human cranium is synonym of a skull. What happened? Maybe I touch here. Okay. It's the cranium, human cranium is synonym of a skull. So Yeshua, he represents the 2-tablet stone, which is like the brain. And he, being the tablet, he is the word. made flesh. And what happened? Yeshua made flesh. He came to die like the brain. Let me explain to you that. How? He died like the brain? Yes. He died like the brain in the way that he is the last sacrifice lamb for the redemption of the human being. The last one. And he breathed his last breath of life for our sins. And where it happened that Yeshua died? Yeshua, he died at Golgotha, which means the skull. Matthew chapter 27. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull, they offered him wine mixed with gall to drink, but after tasting, he was unwilling to drink. And Yeshua cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. Why they called a skull Golgotha? For sure, I wanted to put a picture about the hill there is exactly like a skull. For sure, you know, we had the privilege to go to Israel, and we went to the place. You see the hill like a skull. And also, it was named a skull because also Pilatus, he killed thousands of people there. Thousands of people. So it's now we have time. Yeah. Now let's see also that the Ark of the Covenant is like Yes. The Ark of the Covenant is like the thoracic cage. And you see, many times, or it's happened that some words in English or even in Spanish I discovered that comes from Hebrew. When you say bury, to put in the ground, in Spanish, you say enterrar, and it comes from Hebrew. That means the same pronunciation, the same everything. So we say the thoracic cage. You see the thorax, Torah, the Torah of Elohim. So we are going to change here. So you said the thoracic cage, also known as the rib cage, is the osteocartilaginous structure that encloses the thorax. It is formed by the 12 thoracic vertebrae, 12 pairs of ribs, and associated costal cartilage and the sternum. The thoracic cage takes the form of a dome birth cage with the horizontal parts formed by the ribs and costal cartilage. It is supported by the vertical sternum and the 12 thoracic vertebrae. I don't know if you're following me, it's just the body is according to the Tabernacle. It is what so the main function of the thoracic cage is support thorax and protect protect the vital structures within it. Example, the lungs, the heart, and aorta protect. It's protected because it's so vital. So the 12 pairs of ribs, what we could say about that? It speaks and make reference to the 12 ribs, make reference to the 12 tribes of Israel, which are the 10 gates of the New Jerusalem. And it says that there is 12 pairs of ribs. So it means 24. So, and they are related and linked by a column. So the other 12 ribs represent what? They are linked. So represent what? The 12 disciples, apostles. And they are going to be the pillars, the columns of the new city of Jerusalem. So everything has and inside with so the heart of the Torah is the 2 tablets of stone. The 10 Commandments is the heart of the Torah, and is the covenant. Who is Yeshua, the King, and Yeshua is the message of the Torah. Who is Yeshua? Is Elohim made flesh, and with a purpose to die for us, and then to dwell with us in the New Jerusalem. We could see it in Revelation chapter 21, verse 12 and 14. She had a great high wall with 12 gates, and above the gate 12 angels. On the gates were inscribed the names of the 12 tribes of Bnei Israel, and the wall of the city had 12 foundation pillars columns, and on them the 12 names of the 12 emissaries of the land. It's interesting. Some version is going to say emissary, others apostle. As the teaching of Brother Branham is not a title, it's servants, emissary, those who are close to of Yeshua to serve fully. So this is why, and they are related, linked with a column. Who is the column? The 12 emissaries, the apostle. What is connected with the gates, the 12 tribes, is that the father is Jacob. Our father is Jacob. It's a name, it's Israel. So now let's speak about the lungs. You see the lungs? Exactly. You see, we don't have to smoke because that destroys the lungs. Right. So the lungs, very interesting. There is the left lungs have 2 lobes, while the right lobes the right lung has 3 lobes. So 2 and 5, 2 lungs. 2 tablets of stone with the 10 commandments. So the 2 tablets, the 2 longs represent the 2 tablets, and 2 logs and three logs. The total is 5. It's exactly the same. The Torah, the 5th book that Elohim gave to Moses. And we know that 5 is grace, chesed, and grace is the Torah. The Torah, we receive the Torah by grace. So, the 2 longs equal to tablets. When I try to do a operation, 2 logs in 1 tablet, 1 long, you multiply by 2 is 4, like the 4 commandment. How to love Elohim. 3 logs you multiply by 2 is the same. 6. The commandment, how to love the neighbor. So you see in the picture, the thoracic cage protecting with the 12 pairs of ribs protecting the lungs. Exactly like the Ark of the Covenant that includes the 2 tablets stone. While the cranial box, I apologize, not the cranial. Why the thorax, the rib cage, thoracic cage, protect the lungs? Because it's a vital organ. We cannot live without lungs. For this reason, the lungs are like the 2 tablets. Yeshua, chapter 1:8. Joshua, when we read Joshua chapter 1:8, we see this book of the Torah should not depart from your mouth. You are to meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything right in it. For then you will make your ways prosperous, and then you will be successful. Psalm chapter 1:1-2. Happy is the one who has not walked in the advice of the wicked, nor stood in the way of sinners, nor sat in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the Torah of Adonai, and on his Torah he meditates day and night. So, like the lungs, the 2 tablets of stone, the word of Elohim, exactly like the lungs, we breathe. The lungs work 24 hours, 7 days, all the time. When we sleep and when we are awake, they don't stop, because if not, we die. So, and when we breathe like normally, automatically. I don't say I must remember to breathe. It's just normal. This is what is written in Joshua chapter 1:8, to meditate the word, the 2 tablets representing the word of Elohim and the 10 commandments all the time, day and night. And that's not like a burden, but something like part of our life, and something natural that we need every day. We must do this without effort. So we go exactly like the time. So let's see as well that the Ark of the Covenant is like a womb. uterus, womb. Let's see here. We try to put that mother with a child or the womb, but we prefer to not do it because. So, what is womb? The organ in the lower body of a man, where offspring are conceived, and in which they gestate before birth. It is the uterus. So, previously, in the beginning, we said that the Ark of the Covenant comes from the word Aaron. And Aaron comes from the roots of Ara, which is the feminine gender of, and it's is the feminine gender. This makes sense. For the better of the work of Elohim is in this gender. Begin with the seed of the woman in Genesis. The word of Elohim. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. Elohim says, I will put animosity, enmity, between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He will crush your head, and you will crush his heel. We know that in Hebrew, often seed, descendants is Sarah in Hebrew. So seed, descendants, offspring is the same thing. Sperm in English, the same, exactly the same. The word of Elohim expressed in the tablet stone is a picture of a child in a womb to be protected, kept, and nourished. What is the womb? Is the ark. When Elohim says, make an ark of the covenant, an ark, we are in Exodus chapter 25:10. But 5 chapters before, we were chapter 20. And what's happening in chapter 20? It was when Elohim gave the 10 words. So we see Exodus 20, then Elohim spoke all these words, saying, and after that, he started to give the 10 commandments. Elohim had given the 10 words to his people in Exodus 25:10, and he gave an instruction for the container for his words. 5 chapters later, he started to say, make the Ark of the Covenant, and it is going to be the container for his words. This is the pattern designed to show us where he will dwell. As we know, there is only one object in the heart of the most holy place, is the ark. Elohim commands to make one vessel, which is to teach, guide, and instruct his people, that which houses his eternal words. From 4 Elohim points of view, this ark is made around his word. His word was and is and will always be the center of his will for the human beings. Then the world will be housed for 9 months in a feminine container called Miriam. So he gave the world in the beginning in Genesis, and when he says that the seed of the woman, after that, he gave the instruction, his 10 words in Exodus 20. 5 chapters later, he gave instruction to make the container, which is the ark, to keep, to protect, and keep safe his word as a seed. And later, he chose the word became flesh, and he chose Miriam, the container, to put inside the seed. How come? It's a spiritual. The spirit of Elohim came upon Miriam, and there he clothed himself. Elohim was made flesh. And there, when he put the seal on Miriam, the seal was protected, kept, and fed until the seed, the word of Elohim, could burst forth from the ground, for all men could see. When he was born, Yeshua, people recognized that he was the fulfillment of the promise since Bereshit. And they could see it, that he is the word that was in the Ark of the Covenant. It is the reason why John, he introduced Yeshua as the Word made flesh. And the Word, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim himself. The same Word that throughout the time till Genesis. The seed of the woman will crush the evil. In addition, it's not a coincidence that the woman gestation takes 40 weeks. And we have 39 books since Genesis till Malachi. 39 books. And the 40th book is Matthew. And Yeshua arrived in Matthew 40, exactly the time of gestation. So the child, the word, the seed burst forth in this moment. So, conclusion. Elohim is amazing, perfect. His ways are flawless. Why? He created us according to the tabernacle and also according to the ark. So the teaching is that the Ark of the Covenant protect and keep the 2 tablets representing his word. Why? Because it's essential. As the lungs, as the brain, the word of Elohim must be kept in our heart, in our mind, in the tablets of our mind, the brain, inside, to be meditated, to be done. And like the lungs, like the tablets of stone that was protected, and it was protected. Why? Because it's essential for the spiritual life. With these two tablets of stone, which is the commandment and the covenant and the word of Elohim, we cannot have a spiritual life. So it is important that for us to take seriously his covenant, his word, to meditate and to do it. Because we cannot have life. Sure is the word, but we must come to him, but in the same way, we must to cherish, we must to embrace his word and protect his word inside of us. As Yeshua said, yeah, when people will come in the future, he will say, get out, apart from me, evildoers, you that you didn't my Torah. So I encourage you to keep on keeping the Torah, his 10 words, because the 10 words are going to be in the judgment, and his word also is the word who is going to judge us. So this for today, and we're going to continue